Welcome to another conversation in People in Fundraising. This podcast features interviews with nonprofit professionals who discuss their career journeys, lessons learned, and enthusiasm for working in fundraising. And here's your host, the founder of People in Fundraising, Tim Wilson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Wilson. It is Friday, August 5th, 2022. And today I am thrilled to welcome Jessica Wade, who is the Relationship Management Analyst at the Science History Institute in Philadelphia, to our People in Fundraising program. Jessica, good morning.
Good morning, Tim. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. Jessica and I got connected. We both are really involved in our regional or local APRA international chapters. And it's just been great for me to connect with Jessica. She, as she'll explain later, is the vice president and also the conference director for programming for APRA Pennsylvania. It's one of the most active APRA chapters that I'm aware of, and I've really enjoyed the content they send out with newsletters and invitations to conferences. So well done, Jessica.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We have a really great board, and it's been a pleasure serving.
Dynamite. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that later on. But let's start, if you don't mind, kind of at the beginning. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I have been at the Science History Institute for quite a while. And when I was first hired, I had never worked in development. I was coming from a master's in history background, and I worked in museums, like frontline staff with like hundreds of people a day. And then on the other end, I worked a few jobs. On the other end, I also worked at the Historical Society of Pennsylvania. So I was either around too many people or around a lot of great books and archival materials. So I saw this opportunity years and years ago when we were called the Chemical Heritage Foundation, and it was for someone with a similar background, especially with strong research skills and interviewing skills, because I was going to be hired in the development office, but not as a prospect researcher, because they didn't have a dedicated researcher at all. Yeah, and so it was just kind of like a development assistant role that did a lot of different things, including research. And then it developed and transformed so much over the years that now I do prospect research, prospect management, but I also wear a lot of other hats. You know, I'm part of a solo shop, so it's just me and a team of about 9 or so people, and it's a lot, but it's also a lot of fun because it's not like I only do research, which is great. But I also help with events. I also help with the award process. So I wear a lot of hats. But how did I get here? I guess it's this route. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm also a history major and history lover, and if it feels appropriate toward the end of the conversation, we can geek out on history as well.
Oh, yes.
So. What other, you mentioned you wear many hats. Is there a typical cadence to how much you devote of time and bandwidth to prospect management, research, the events, planning, and programming?
Well, this year we started using a project management software, so I've been able to kind of track what I do and keep me like it reminds me. So instead of just me reminding myself with all these lists, it's like, oh, this is what you do today. I was like, oh, I can take a break from like managing myself. But it really depends on the time of year. So I support our president, who's also the head of the development office. And so I make sure to get research him and get his actions in NXT and everything. Yes, we love Blackbaud. We have NXT.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so I support him, and then I support we don't have a dedicated major gifts officer, so a lot of our fundraisers also wear other hats. So I support three of them. Three of them. And I would say that like 40% of my time, or 50, is research and management, prospect research and management, and the other 50% is everything else. And if it's
Wow.
a time of year where we have like a really big event, might be a little more on the event side. So
Sure. Okay.
yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, we're a museum and library, but I don't necessarily work in museum and library events. It's more like fundraising and development events.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Neat. Before we continue with the events side of your role, because I have a specific question that you're aware of for the events. What would you like to tell our audience about the Science History Institute?
Oh, great question. So the Science History Institute is a museum and library dedicated to the history of science, and we're located in Philadelphia near the Liberty Bell. So come on in. And our museum is free. We're open 5 days a week, might be 4 days a week at this point, but it's a free museum, and we have really great collections. Our library is a little more restricted, but we have a ton of fellows. The fellowship program for history of science is the largest in the country, and so I get to meet a lot of really cool fellows who are researching some really interesting stuff, and they come from all over the world. So it's a great place. We have about 60 staff. I would say 50 to 60 staff that are full-time. And we are in mostly a hybrid mode. Some people are in the office every day, depending on their role. And some people are remote the entire time. There aren't too many of those. And then there's more hybrid. We have a really flexible, those of us whose work allows it have a very flexible work arrangement, which it's very new, but it's part of the pandemic, but whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's and I've been there for a long time. We used to be called the Chemical Heritage Foundation, and we were founded in the 80s when our affiliates realized there were history of physics organizations, but not a history of chemistry. So why not?
Oh, interesting. Okay. And I did a little bit of research, and thank you for talking about your institute. I need to do a better job in these interviews asking the people to explain their institution. So I appreciate that on the spot pivot, and you did great with that. So thank you. So I did a little bit of research, and Jessica knows this. The Science History Institute celebrates its 40th anniversary this year, and I would like to learn, now that you mentioned kind of the typical 50% of your time is devoted outside of prospect development, are there events for this year, or with the pandemic, maybe they're being pushed off to next year, to celebrate the 40th, and what your role has been or will be in helping that be successful?
Yeah, so first of all, props on your own research, realizing that we are in our 40th year, or approaching it. And, funny enough, years ago, when we were going through the name change and the merger of the Chemical Heritage Foundation and the Life Sciences Foundation in California, right around 2018, I did a lot of research on our history just to see where we came from and to learn about the named spaces in the building and things like that.
Yeah.
So I have this very intimate knowledge of our first decade, which is kind of bizarre to me, but history, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are celebrating our 40th. We're going to have a big celebration in June 2023. And at that point, our affiliates, which are the American Chemical Society and the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, I usually just say the acronym, I have to think, will be joining in the celebrations in June. And we're going to have, still being ironed out, but it's going to be the day when we give our 3 big awards, which we usually give at Heritage Day and every May, but we're kind of moving this to June for the celebration. And then we're going to partner, as far as this is the goal, we're going to partner with some of our old city neighbors and kind of bring everybody out into the old city and hope that we can have some like history of science programming with our neighbors. We have a restaurant and bar next door that does a lot of, they serve as an event space for a lot of our talks.
Okay.
So to partner with them,
Yeah.
There's a lot. So that's the programming team, the museum team, the library, like everybody's working together, and then we're working on the side of funding everything too. So, and then
Sure.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. And then of course our museum has a really great exhibit that's been out for almost a year this September, that's been featured in the local PBS, WHYY news and other. So, they always have great programming in the museum too. So looking forward to seeing what they do.
Oh, that's dynamite. That's so cool. Are there any artifacts or displays at the museum that you've been drawn to, or ones that maybe you take friends to see or recommend?
Yeah, so that's a great question. In fact, the first time I went to the Chemical Heritage Foundation, it was with my cousin, and he developed lithium, I guess he still does this, lithium ion batteries. And he was in town from California, and I was like, I don't understand that, but let's go to this museum. And we found this old telephone where you wind it, and there's a battery inside. So he was telling me the history and like how batteries work. And I was like, yes, okay. That's like very special to me because it has that connection from like 2011, long before I knew I would work here. We have like a bloodletting bowl that might have belonged to George Washington. We have a Nobel Prize, the actual prize itself. Then we have this huge machine for that developed insulin or something. I hope I'm saying all this right. My museum co-workers watch it. They'll be like, that wasn't what that did. But yeah. And we have amazing collection of alchemical paintings too. And it's showing alchemists in their lab or just in their home from the 17th century on. They're amazing paintings. You have a little bit of everything. Yeah.
That's dynamite, man. I took my family to Pennsylvania years ago, and we didn't have a ton of time, unfortunately. But I've always wanted to go back, and if I do, we will definitely stop by at the Science History Institute. That's really cool.
Oh, that would be great. Yes, and we're free. So.
I've got 4 kids, Jessica. That's music to my ears. This is a question I haven't asked too many people in this conversation series, but I would love if you'd be okay addressing it. So you mentioned you toured the museum with your cousin, and you mentioned the events coming up and so forth. How do you talk to family or friends about the various roles that you have at the Science History Institute, and what would you hope they take away from your description or your commitment to this particular institution or the profession in general?
Wow, that's a good question, because a lot of my family doesn't understand what I do, and my friends do, because I won't shut up about it. So, but yeah, so I typically start with saying that, I support our fundraisers, and I make sure that they're asking for a gift at the right level. So then if they ask me more, I get into I look at public, records too. I mean, and all of your viewers probably know what I'm talking about, but we aren't researching any private financial information. And so that's what I try to drive home, that everything I find, anybody can find if they know where to look. So if you're trying to uncover the wealth of a prospect, and then I explain what a prospect is, where to look, that this is public information, and that we like to think of ourselves as Nancy Drews, or Hardy Boys, but we're not doing anything untoward.
Yes.
And specifically that, I support our fundraisers to, achieve our fundraising goals. That's like the nutshell of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I had someone ask me more, and so I sent them a video of introduction to prospect research that my colleague Lauren Woodring and I presented with the Regional Foundation Center in Philadelphia, and the recording is on the APRA Pennsylvania website. So I was just like, you want to learn more? Here's exactly what I do. Like, and here's me talking about it for like an hour. So someone actually watched it once and came back to me, and this is a coworker, and I was like, this is so amazing.
Yeah. Kudos to you. That's great.
Yeah, I just love that curiosity. So I mean, I'm very curious, and I feel like that advances people, prospect researchers and prospect development professionals. You really need to be curious to do this job.
Yeah.
And so when I find that curiosity, I'm just like, oh, fellow curious George, let's talk.
Yes. That's awesome. And I totally agree with you, Jessica, about the curiosity element particularly in prospect development. Because that's what attracted me. I had no idea what fundraising even was coming out of college. And I was in a night master's program and paying through the nose for it. And someone's like, oh, if you get a full-time job, they will pay for your master's degree. And I'm like, oh, all right. So there was a nice synergy between my academic interests and the role of prospect, at the time, just prospect research. So yeah, well put. Curiosity is essential in this role. So Jessica, you mentioned you've been at the Science History Institute for quite a number of years. You've referenced it as the Chemical Heritage Foundation earlier. So talk with us how long you've been there, and what is it about the Institute, the mission, what have you, without answering your own question. I'm kind of giving you, any leads. So what is it about the Science History Institute that has made you be committed to it for as long as you've been there?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And in the beginning, honestly, I started in July 2013. So,
Okay.
over 9 years now. And in the beginning, I was coming from, a really hard time, like financially, with the economic climate in the country. And so I had been working 3 jobs at the same time for 2.5 years.
Whoa.
And yeah, it was a lot. So once I landed at CHF, I was like, okay, I'm not going anywhere. And so that for like the first 2 years, I'm like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So, and I've had the fortune of working with some really great people, and that makes a huge difference. I have a lot of friends who, are coworkers or former coworkers. In fact, the person who I replaced, she and I overlapped for 2 weeks, so she got to teach me everything that I needed to know, which was great. But she and I are still friends. Like we're very, very good friends. She works near where I live, and it's really great to have those types of connections. So the people have really kept me there in a way. And then, after the first 2 years, and I was like, okay, I'll be okay financially. I enjoy the work that I do, and I enjoy how much I'm able to have a lot of, in a way, autonomy, because I wear a lot of hats. We don't have any micromanagers on our team, which is great. And my boss is really great. And in the past 2 years, we've had a new president who's made a huge impact on how the Institute, its future, its vision, and how he sees it moving forward. And his vision, I think, is inspiring a lot of us. And so, he even realized that the staff have, feelings about what's going on, and they want to have a say. So he created a group that I serve on called the Strategic Advisory Group. And we've been around for almost 12 months now. And we have, we surface challenges and opportunities brought to us from the staff across the whole organization, and we bring those to the president. And if he can change things, he will. Like it's great serving on. There's 5 of us, 6 of us on it. So it's great to be at a place where, you know, if you want something to change, the possibility is there. It hasn't always been that way, and it's not that way everywhere for everyone. So that's made a big impact. And also serving on the strategic advisory group also makes me like have more buy-in. So I'm like, they're clever. They know I won't want to leave.
That's dynamite. I love hearing, you know, the various elements that have kept you there, and that's really cool. I'm glad for you.
Yeah, it's great. And we have a flexible work policy too, which is nice. That didn't really exist before 2020. So, you know, it's nice to be able to choose where I work, at least parts of the week. And I know a lot of staff have appreciated that. And that was an initiative that the Strategic Advisory Group pushed through with leadership, like talking is important.
Oh, dynamite. That's really good. You know, I think that speaks well for the institution when leadership, you know, workshops ideas and gets a nice representation of the staff. And particularly, I mean, you and I know with prospect development, there oftentimes are institutions or leadership structures that don't often give prospect development the seat at the table. And that's, I mean, I think that's a generalization. I think there's more appreciation for what people in PD do and can contribute. I may edit that out, but that's great to hear that you're serving on this group, and it sounds like, you know, ideas are welcomed and received and acted upon.
Yeah, it's a really great group, and you know, and other people can, you know, fill in. Like whenever I transition off, another person from my department can fill in for me. But I'm really glad that he had the foresight to create something like this. And it was a staff suggestion, and then that staff member left us. We were like, we'll figure this out without you. And we missed it. But every time I talk to her, I update her how the SAG is doing. So she's thrilled.
Oh, that's good. I've really enjoyed hearing about Science History Institute and your career path. And if we can pivot, Jessica, now to APRA, Pennsylvania, and the various volunteer roles you have there, what you do in those roles, and again, I've been very impressed with the content that your chapter shares across the country. I'm out here in Utah, and you and I have talked about the APRA Pennsylvania Fall Conference this October, and I'm really excited for that, and I'm honored to participate. So thank you for that. But I'd love for you to share what you'd like about APRA Pennsylvania and your volunteer roles there.
Yeah, thank you. It's something I love doing. So in January 2018, I started serving on the board as membership director back then. So I served with Kim Braun and Chris Connors and Diana Heim, the Power Three who had brought APRA PA through over the years, and then we were joined also by Lauren Woodring, who is our current president, and she was the programming director, and she really, really pushed programming, and she's the one who gets all that content out, and even now as president, she's still doing a lot of the annual programming aside from the conference. So props to Lauren if you're watching. But yeah, so since January 2022, I've started serving as the vice president and conference director. So after 4 years of serving as membership director and increasing our membership more than double what it was when I started.
Awesome.
Yeah, it felt really good. We have over 150 members right now. I think it's 157, but don't
wow.
Yeah, but so we're gonna have a conference in the fall. It's my first time planning a conference for this chapter. and I want it to be fun, and I appreciate that you will be part of the conference. So guys, stay tuned for more on that. But yeah, so I was just thinking, like, how can we rethink conferences and learning and make it like fun learning, and like you leave the conference thinking, man, I want to do that again, like every week. So I'm hoping that's how people experience it, and I'm hoping they come back for more next year. Shameless plug right now.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I do love serving. We have a very active board. I want to say there are 6 of us, and 4 of us are in the Philadelphia area. Yeah, 4 of us are in the Philadelphia area, and 3 of us, have served for a couple years, and we actually have we go out in Philly, and we try to we go out, we get dinner. If we have a question about something, we just text one another really quickly and be like, hey, how would you handle this?
Yeah.
It's been a great way not only to develop my professional background, but also to find and make friends. And I consider 2 people who have served on the board with me, or who I've served with, kind of as my mentors, and I don't even think they realize this. So like Chris Connors, who's at Villanova, used to be our conference director and VP years ago, and like he's taught me so much, and he probably doesn't even realize I think of him as a mentor, but I do. And then Suzanne Harris, if you're watching, she's our treasurer and good friend, and I think of her, she's amazing with prospect management and like analytics, and she's always learning. So I strive to be more like her. So
awesome.
Yeah, to them, and I wouldn't have met them otherwise if it hadn't been for chapter involvement. So yeah,
Sure.
And you're really involved in chapter too. So like you get it. Like these are connections that we make, and you build those connections, you build that networking, and you make friends along the way. So it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I found that I served on the NEDRA board for 2 years before moving out here to Utah, and then serving on the APRA Utah board. And even, I think the pandemic, this is, Captain Obvious here, but like the pandemic has really opened up lots of exciting and kind of efficient ways to share knowledge across states, across chapters. I'm not sure if we would have connected to the degree that we have in the pre-pando times, and to be a part of your upcoming conference. So I think it's given a lot of people in prospect development a boost to say, yeah, I can carve out some time for my local chapter because I'm working from home, and maybe I'm cutting down on my commute time, and there are ways to manage bandwidth that didn't exist really before when we were all going to the office 5 days a week. And speaking of your chapter, am I right that there is a Philadelphia Phillies game tonight that your chapter is going to?
That's right. So we got a group rate for the Phillies Nationals game in Philadelphia tonight. And, for the group rate, you have to have like 25 people to come. And we did this in summer 2019, and it was a hit. And we're like, nice. We're bringing it back. And it's super popular. Hopefully the rain will hold out. I'm a little worried about that. But yeah, so Lauren Woodring was like, hey, guys, want to do this again? And we were like, sure. And she connected with the Phillies, ticket office, and we're really excited. So the Phillies have been doing pretty well. So hopefully tonight it doesn't rain, and hopefully they do well. Everybody's looking forward to it.
That is so cool. I might steal that idea for our chapter. We don't have a major league team, but we've got minor league teams. So yeah, absolutely,
it's a great way to connect and. To meet your fellow researchers, and people can bring their families along. Like, you get to meet.
That's so cool. I like that idea. I hope the rain holds off, and I hope the Phillies win. So, well, Jessica, the last question here, and I really have enjoyed conversing with you and hearing about your day-to-day job at the Science History Institute and your commitment to APRA Pennsylvania. if we can do a little sidebar and talk history for a moment. So tell me, did you finish your master's and then go into full-time employment, or how did that work, and what did you study?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, you see some of my books behind me.
Yeah.
So some of the history books, some of them are dictionaries for various languages or just English. But yeah, so I studied undergrad and got a bachelor's in history, and I decided I wanted to be a history professor. So, but I was like, you know what, PhD is a long time. Let me start with the terminal master's. And that's where my I want to be a professor ended, because then I realized how long PhD was. But yeah, and that's what brought me to the Philly area. I'm from Virginia originally, and moved to the Philly suburbs to go to Villanova University in 2008. And so I have a master's in history with a concentration on European history.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I mean, I've got some of my my favorite books are right there, those 2 or 3.
Dynamite.
I've met some of my hero historians who are still alive, and they've signed some of these books. So
whoa.
Yeah. So, I didn't even think about what I would do after graduation, but I realized there were so many museums, libraries, and archives in Philadelphia. I was like, I can find something. And I was like, I could adjunct, I could teach history, I could teach at the Community College of Philadelphia or any other community colleges that were hiring. But I just kind of fell into the museum and archival world. So that's circuitous route. That's my theme. What about you? And you have you love history, so you have a background in history.
Yeah, so I studied history at UMass Amherst. That's my alma mater. And then after that, I was double major history and German. I lived in Germany for a year. And then after undergrad, I wanted, just like you, I'm like, oh, I'd love to be a history professor or work in a library. And then I realized, just like as you said, the long tenure and the uncertainty of getting full-time employment. And thought, okay, maybe I should do something else. But like you mentioned, adjunct, that's something I still hold out a dream for. And like you, I concentrated in European history. That's my favorite area, particularly the Cold War, after World War II. And one of my good friends in Boston's like, oh, Tim, give me a break. Like, get yourself a war with real battles, not Nikita Khrushchev going to Disneyland. So.
Wow. Well, right now I've gotten really into John le Carré. I guess that's how you say it. But now I'm reading the George Smiley series. So I'm on number 5, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yes, that's a great one.
Yeah, so I'm almost done. I've never seen the movie. I wanted to read it first, but it's great, and it's an interesting period. Tell your friend he's wrong.
Yeah, he's got this, Civil War mentality, and he's like, you can actually go visit the battlefields. Like, what are you going to do? Go, to the Dakotas and look at an abandoned nuclear silo? I mean, so we just have fun going back and forth.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I more on fin de siècle, so turn of the 20th century, right there around 1900. But I started off Wisconsin Reformation because I love art. I have a minor in religious studies, so I love everything about different religions and changes in religion. So,
fascinating.
But yeah.
I would love to talk with you more offline about all these different academic interests, because that's really cool.
Yes. I didn't realize about yours either. So look at this, always learning.
Right. Well, Jessica, the time has flown by, but I really have enjoyed our conversation, and just great to connect with you beyond the work we've discussed and the opportunities to connect through the chapters. So It's been really delightful. Thank you for your time today and sharing your career journey with us.
Yeah, thank you for coming, and thank you also for these questions that kind of get me thinking about like what I do here and why I'm here and why I stay here, and it makes me go, oh yeah, I do love it. So thanks for that boost.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the, one of the purposes of these professional conversations. It's to spotlight people and how a lot of people, just through unintended routes, they can't plan it, but they end up, hearing about a nonprofit and getting into development work, and it becomes a passion for them. So it's clear that it's for you as well. So I'm glad to spotlight you and your institute. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you to our listeners, our viewers of the People in Fundraising podcast series. You can find Jessica Wade's conversation on my website, peopleinfundraising.com. And Jessica's conversation today will likely air later in August or early September. And also, I am making a little plug here that if viewers, past interviewees, have other people that they think would be interested in coming on as a guest, I would welcome referrals. So thank you for that, and have a great rest of your day, and go Phillies!
Go Phillies!
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.